My name is Elena Martinez. I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, my parents stood up at their 40th anniversary celebration and announced to everyone gathered, we're taking the whole family on a dream vacation to the Bahamas next week. Everyone cheered. My sister practically jumped out of her seat with joy. I felt this warmth spread through my chest, already imagining turquoise water and white sand beaches, my first real break in years. Then I made the mistake of asking one innocent question. What day do we leave? My father looked at me like I'd just asked him to explain quantum physics. My mother's smile froze on her face, and right there, in front of 30 witnesses, my dad said, "Oh, Elena, you won't need to pack. You're staying home. Someone has to look after the grandkids." 30 faces, 30 people who watched my family tell me I wasn't really part of this family at all. But here's the thing they didn't know. I had something hidden, something I'd been quietly building for 3 years. And that night, standing there with everyone staring at me, I decided it was time to let it see daylight. Before I go any further, I need to ask you something. Please subscribe and like this video, and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I really want to know if my words are reaching you, wherever you are in this world. Now, to understand why I walked away from everything I'd ever known, you need to see where I came from. The Martinez family lives in this pristine colonial-style house outside Philadelphia. 4 bedrooms, perfectly manicured lawn, the kind of place that screams success to anyone driving past. My father, Ricardo Martinez, retired 3 years back from his position as operations director at a manufacturing company. My mother, Linda, never held what she calls a real job, but she'll tell anyone who will listen that she's busier than any executive, running the church fundraising committee, organizing neighborhood events, protecting what she calls our family's good name. Then there's my sister, Isabel, 3 years younger than me, married to Cameron Foster, a corporate lawyer whose firm name she manages to drop into literally every conversation. They have 2 children, 7-year-old Mateo and 4-year-old Lucia, plus a brand new Mercedes SUV that always gets the driveway spot at our parents' house. My Toyota Camry, the one I've been nursing along for a decade, that gets the street. "Elena, move your car," my mother would say every single time. "Cameron's bringing the Mercedes, and you know how it looks when guests arrive." I never questioned it. I just moved my car. That's what happens when you're the invisible daughter. You stop noticing all the tiny ways they've already decided you don't count. The better parking space, the seat at the head of the table, the way your mother introduces your sister by what her husband does for a living, while you're just Elena, she helps out around here. I work as a freelance bookkeeper, remote clients mostly, flexible schedule, decent enough income, nothing impressive by Martinez family standards. But I never told them about my other work, the thing I started 3 years ago when my life crumbled in a completely different way. I never told them I'd learned to truly see people. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Drop a comment if this is hitting home for you. Let me show you what helping out actually means in the Martinez household. Thanksgiving. I arrive before sunrise to prep the turkey. I set the table with my mother's expensive Lenox china, the set I'm never allowed to use for myself, only to wash. I arrange fresh flowers, polish the silverware, times 7 different side dishes so everything comes out hot together. Isabel glides in around lunchtime wearing designer everything, kisses everyone hello, and sits down like she's at a restaurant. "Everyone, this is my daughter Isabel and her husband Cameron," my mother announces to the room, beaming. "Cameron just made junior partner at Henderson and Beck. Such an achievement. We're incredibly proud." Nobody mentions that I've been doing Cameron's tax returns for 4 years, free of charge, naturally. Christmas, exact same pattern, except I'm also wrapping every present my mother bought because her hands hurt, though her hands never seem to hurt during her weekly tennis matches. Funny how that works. Birthday parties for my niece and nephew. I'm the one blowing up balloons at 6 in the morning, setting up games, coordinating the bounce house delivery, cleaning frosting off walls while Isabel gets her nails done because it's important for me to be present and look nice in the photos, Alina. The one time, just once, I said I couldn't help with a family dinner because I had a work deadline, my mother's voice went ice cold. Family comes first, Alina. We all make sacrifices for each other. Except I seem to be the only one making them. The breaking point comes in these small moments, like the Christmas I unwrapped my gift to find an apron with "World's Best Tia" spelled out in sparkly letters. Isabel gave it to me with this proud smile, like she'd done something thoughtful. I wore it. I wore that thing every time I cooked in their kitchen, watched their kids, cleaned their messes. You know when I finally understood the truth? It hit me on this random Wednesday night. I was scrubbing my mother's Le Creuset pot after another family dinner I'd cooked and served and now was cleaning up from, alone in the kitchen, while everyone else watched TV in the living room. I couldn't remember the last time anyone had invited me somewhere without needing me to work. 3 years ago, my whole world fell apart. I'd been with someone, a man named Tyler, for 5 years. We talked about marriage, children, building a future together. Then one evening he sat me down and said words I'll never forget. "Elena, I care about you, but I don't think I'm in love with you anymore. You're just always there. You're just there. Just there. Like a lamp, like wallpaper, like furniture people stop seeing after a while." After he left, I found myself walking aimlessly through downtown Philly. I don't even remember deciding to go there. I just wandered, and I ended up in this little pawn shop with dusty windows. That's where I saw it. A Canon DSLR camera, pre-owned but in beautiful condition, marked at $190. I bought it with money I should have saved. I told nobody. That camera became my secret life. I started photographing people everyone else overlooks. Elderly men on park benches, overnight shift workers heading home at dawn, street performers counting their tips with weathered hands, people society walks right past without seeing, the same way my family walks right past me. I called the project Unseen Voices. I created an anonymous Instagram account. No personal photos, no real name, just the work. Over 3 years, I built a following of 14,000 people, strangers who saw what I saw, who understood. I kept that camera wrapped in a vintage silk scarf at the back of my closet, the only thing in my entire life that was just mine. 3 weeks before my parents' anniversary party, I got an email I almost deleted as spam. It was from a gallery in San Diego called Shoreline Arts Collective, asking if I'd be interested in discussing my portfolio. I stared at that email for half an hour. My hands were actually shaking. But I didn't reply right away, because good things didn't happen to people like me, right? People like me just helped out. There's one person in my family who actually sees me as a full human being, my mother's younger sister, Aunt Rosa. Rosa is what my mother calls the family disappointment. Never married, never had kids, chose to follow her passion for painting instead of getting what my mother calls a respectable career. 20 years ago, Rosa moved to Santa Barbara to open this small art gallery and studio. My mother still hasn't forgiven her. Rosa wasted her potential, my mother loves to say. She could have had a proper life, but she chose to play with paintbrushes instead. I've been calling Aunt Rosa every Sunday evening for 8 years. My mother doesn't know about these calls. Rosa was the first person to see my photographs. I sent her just one, testing the waters, and her response made tears stream down my face. Elena, this is extraordinary. You have a real gift, Miha. Nobody had ever called anything I did extraordinary. She's the one who pushed me to keep shooting, to keep posting, and 3 weeks before my parents' anniversary, she said something that changed the entire direction of my life. Elena, I hope this is okay, but I sent your Instagram to someone I know, a gallery director in San Diego named Marcus Rivera. He specializes in emerging photographers. I nearly dropped my phone. Aunt Rosa, that's the gallery that emailed me. I know, sweetheart. He told me he wants to discuss a solo show with your work. Long silence. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. But that's a real career opportunity. Yes, it is. Her voice was soft but firm. And you deserve it, Elena. You don't need permission from anyone to chase what you love. I learned that lesson way too late. You don't have to make the same mistake. That night, sitting alone in my small apartment, I finally replied to Marcus Rivera's email, and that decision set everything else in motion. What happened next changed everything. But before I tell you, I need to know, would you have replied to that email, or would fear have stopped you? Let me know in the comments. Now let me take you to the night that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. My parents' 40th anniversary, a milestone worth celebrating properly, according to my mother, which meant 35 guests, a catered menu that I would help coordinate to save money, and an evening of toasting the Martinez family's 4 decades of picture-perfect marriage. The preparations started a full week early. I took 4 days off from my bookkeeping work to help set up. I ordered flowers, white roses, and calla lilies per my mother's exact specifications. I hand-addressed 70 place cards in the calligraphy she demanded. I coordinated delivery times with the caterer, ironed tablecloths, polished the crystal glasses that had been their wedding gift 40 years ago. On the actual day, I showed up at 6:30 in the morning. I wore old jeans and a t-shirt because there was no point getting dressed up when I'd be working in the kitchen for 12 hours straight. By 6 that evening, the house looked absolutely perfect. Candles flickering on every surface, the dining table extended across the entire living room set for 35 with my mother's finest china. I'd changed into a simple black dress at the last minute. Nothing fancy, nothing that would draw attention away from the guests of honor. Elena, my mother found me in the hallway adjusting a flower arrangement. She looked me up and down with this little frown. That's what you're wearing? It's black. I thought that was appropriate for an evening event. I suppose it's fine. She waved her hand dismissively. Just stay in the background tonight, okay? This celebration is about your father and me. I nodded. Of course I nodded. That's what I always did. Guests started arriving at 7:15. Men in blazers, women in cocktail dresses, old colleagues and church friends, and neighbors whose homes were as immaculate as ours. 35 people who thought they knew the Martinez family inside and out. Not one of them really knew me at all. But in a few hours, that wouldn't matter anymore. Have you ever worked an entire event just to be treated like you're invisible? Tell me your story. Isabel made her entrance at 7:30. Perfectly timed for maximum impact. She swept through the front door in this stunning emerald wrap dress, some designer label she made sure to mention, with Cameron behind her in an expensive suit, and their children dressed like they'd stepped out of a catalog. My mother practically ran to greet them, gushing about how gorgeous Isabel looked, how handsome Cameron was, how adorable the grandchildren were. I stood near the kitchen holding a tray of appetizers nobody had asked me to make. Everyone, you all know my daughter Isabel and her husband Cameron. Cameron just closed a major case last month, 6 figures. We're so incredibly proud of this family. Applause, smiles, congratulations all around. My mother never mentioned that I'd organized this entire party, that I'd spent a week making sure every detail was perfect, that I'd done Cameron's corporate taxes again this year, saving him thousands. I was invisible, just like always. I moved through the room offering hors d'oeuvres, refilling wine glasses, answering questions from guests who didn't recognize me. "Are you with the catering company?" one woman asked, reaching for a stuffed mushroom. Before I could respond, my mother appeared. "Oh no, that's Elena, my other daughter. She's helping out tonight." The woman smiled vaguely and turned away to talk to someone more interesting. My mother didn't notice the flash of pain across my face. She never noticed. At one point, Cameron walked up to me with Lucia squirming in his arms and Mateo tugging at his sleeve. "Hey, can you take them for a bit? Isabel and I need to network." Not, "Would you mind?" Not, "Thank you so much," just, "Can you take them?" Like handing off luggage at baggage claim. I took them. I fed them dinner in the kitchen away from the adult party. I wiped Lucia's face when she spilled juice down her dress. I read Mateo 4 stories to keep him from running into the living room and disrupting the elegant atmosphere. When I finally came back out, they were serving dessert. I hadn't eaten a single thing all day. Nobody had thought to save me a plate. The announcement came at 9 o'clock sharp, right after my mother's homemade tres leches cake was served on her best dessert plates. My father stood, clinking his wine glass with a fork. The room fell silent instantly. 35 faces turned toward him with warm, expectant smiles. "Patricia and I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. 40 years of marriage, 4 decades of building this beautiful family, this life, this home together." My mother glowed beside him. Isabel reached for Cameron's hand in this picture-perfect gesture. I stood near the kitchen archway, still holding a stack of dirty plates. "And to celebrate this incredible milestone," he continued, pausing for dramatic effect, "we're taking the entire family to the Bahamas, 8 days at a luxury resort in Nassau, a second celebration, just the Martinez family." The room exploded with those appreciative sounds people make. "Oh, how wonderful! What a generous gift! You both deserve it so much." Isabel actually squealed out loud, "Dad, oh my God, that's amazing! The kids are going to absolutely love the beach." I felt something flutter in my chest. The entire family. That meant me too, right? For once, I wouldn't be cooking or cleaning or watching children. I'd actually be included in something. I stepped forward, letting myself smile for the first time all evening. "That sounds incredible. What day are we flying out?" The question hung in the air like smoke. My father's expression changed. He glanced at my mother. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication I'd seen a million times, but never fully understood until this exact moment. "Elena," he said slowly, carefully, "you don't need to worry about flight times." "I don't understand." My voice came out smaller than I intended. My father cleared his throat, suddenly very interested in his wine glass. "Because you're not coming on this trip." "What?" I heard myself whisper. "Someone needs to stay here," my mother added, as if this were the most logical thing in the entire world. "Isabel and Cameron need a real vacation, Elena. That means you'll be watching Mateo and Lucia." But the words stuck in my throat. "Elena, honestly," my mother's tone sharpened like a blade, "you don't have anything important scheduled. Isabel works so hard with those children. She deserves a proper break." Isabel works hard. Isabel who hadn't held a paying job in 8 years. Isabel who had a part-time nanny 3 days a week and still complained constantly about being overwhelmed. "It's only 8 days," Cameron added, not even looking at me. "The kids adore you anyway." I stood there in my plain black dress, holding dirty plates, while 35 people watched my family tell me I wasn't really family at all. Some of them looked uncomfortable. A few shifted in their seats. Most of them just looked away, suddenly fascinated by their dessert plates. One woman, I didn't know her name, leaned toward her husband and whispered something. He nodded slowly. I caught just a few words. Poor thing, she probably expects this by now. Expects this. Like being excluded was just my role in this family, my permanent position. The champagne glass in my hand started to shake. I set it down carefully, set down the dirty plates, because I didn't trust my hands anymore. Of course, I said quietly, I understand. I forced myself to smile. That same smile I'd perfected over 32 years of being the helpful one, the reliable one, the one who never, ever complained. But something deep inside me had finally cracked. Not broken entirely, just cracked, like a frozen lake at the beginning of spring. I excused myself to the kitchen. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes and took 3 long, slow breaths. And for the first time in my entire life, I started planning my escape. The party continued without me. Of course it did. But what they didn't know was that I'd already started packing. Want to know what I did next? Keep watching.
The party kept going. Music, laughter, the sound of people celebrating something I was no longer part of. I stayed in the kitchen, mechanically washing crystal glasses while conversations drifted in from the other room. Bits of praise for my parents, excitement about the upcoming trip, someone asking Isabel where they were staying in Nassau. At some point, Isabel appeared in the doorway, her emerald dress swishing as she walked. "Elena, don't be upset," she said, reaching out to touch my arm. "You know how it is. Cameron and I really, really need this vacation. Work has been absolutely crazy lately, with the kids and everything." I kept washing. I didn't look up. "I understand. Besides, you're so naturally good with Mateo and Lucia, they'll barely even notice we're gone. It'll be fun for you." Fun for me. 8 days of childcare while my entire family vacationed in paradise. Fun. Isabel sighed dramatically, the way she always does when she thinks I'm being difficult. "Look, it's just 8 days, and it's not like you have a boyfriend or anything tying you down right now. Your schedule is so flexible, Elena. You can work from anywhere." Flexible. That word again. As if my time had no value because I chose how to spend it. As if my work didn't matter because it happened on my laptop instead of in a corner office. "Oh, Cameron made a list for you," she continued brightly, pulling out her phone. "All their schedules, dietary stuff. Lucia can't have strawberries, remember that. And Mateo's been having trouble with his ear again. He might need drops. I'll text you all the details." She didn't ask if I was willing to do this. She just assumed. She always assumed. That's when Cameron appeared behind her, loosening his tie. "All good here? Perfect. We need to head out soon, babe. Your mom wants family photos before we go." They were gone in seconds, leaving me alone with a phone full of instructions I never agreed to follow. But standing there in my mother's pristine kitchen, staring at that list of demands Isabel had just sent, a thought crystallized in my mind with perfect clarity. They don't see me as family. They see me as staff, and staff can quit. It was nearly midnight when I found the emails that changed everything. The last guests had finally trickled out. My parents had gone to bed, exhausted from accepting 40 years of congratulations. I was alone in the living room, folding the rented tablecloths, when I realized I needed to send a file to a client whose deadline I'd pushed back to help with this party. My laptop was at my apartment. My mother's computer was sitting right there on the kitchen counter. She won't mind, I told myself. She'd borrowed my things countless times without asking. I opened the laptop. The browser was already running, Gmail still logged in, and there, right at the top of her inbox, I saw my name. Subject line, Bahamas trip, Elena situation. My finger hovered over the trackpad. I knew I shouldn't look. I knew whatever was in that email thread would hurt. I clicked anyway. The thread was between my mother and Isabel, starting about a week before tonight. From Linda Martinez to Isabel Foster. "Let's just keep Elena home to watch the kids. She doesn't have anything important going on anyway. Cameron's right. It's like having free childcare on demand. She should honestly be grateful we give her a purpose." And Isabel's response made my stomach drop. "Totally agree, Mom. She'll probably feel useful for once," which is kind of sad, but at least it works out perfectly for us. I read those words 3 times, then 4, making absolutely sure I understood them correctly. Free childcare. She should be grateful.
kind of sad. My hands were shaking as I took screenshots. I emailed them to myself from a random account I created right there. I deleted my sent email from her account. I cleared the browser history. Then I sat in my mother's dark kitchen in the house where I grew up and finally let myself understand exactly what I was to them. Not a daughter, not a sister, a convenience. I drove home at 1:30 in the morning through empty streets, my mind racing. My apartment was small, a modest one-bedroom in a building that definitely showed its age. Beige carpet, white walls, furniture from thrift stores and estate sales. My mother had called it depressing the one time she bothered to visit. But it was mine, the only space in the world where I could actually breathe. I sat in the darkness for a long time, my phone glowing in my hand. The email from Marcus Rivera, the gallery director in San Diego, who wanted to discuss my work. We'd exchanged a few messages. He was enthusiastic about my photography series. He wanted to meet in person to discuss a potential exhibition. I could go. I could actually just go. My finger hovered over Aunt Rosa's contact. It was almost 2 in the morning, but I called anyway. She answered on the third ring, her voice alert despite the hour. "Elena, what's wrong?" I told her everything. The announcement, the humiliation in front of 35 people, the emails I found. My voice cracked exactly once when I read aloud the words free childcare. When I finished, there was this heavy silence on the line. Then Aunt Rosa said something I'll remember for the rest of my life. "Elena, I have a spare bedroom above my gallery. I could use help with the morning shift anyway. And that gallery Marcus runs, it's 30 minutes from my place in Santa Barbara. Aunt Rosa, I can't just walk away from everything." "Yes, Mija, you can. You can leave. You can choose yourself for once in your life. The only person stopping you is you." I hung up at 2:30. By sunrise, I'd started packing. What would you pack if you were leaving everything behind? Just the essentials? Just the things that really mattered? Think about it. 3 suitcases. My camera equipment, carefully wrapped, my laptop and backup drives, clothes, not many, just enough, the silk scarf that had protected my Canon for 3 years. I left behind the world's best Tia apron hanging on the back of my kitchen door. For the first time in 32 years, I was choosing myself over them. And it felt terrifying and liberating all at once. 2 days before my family's trip to the Bahamas, I drove to my parents' house one final time. My mother was in the living room, surrounded by open suitcases, coordinating resort outfits like a military operation. Isabel sat on the couch, scrolling through excursion options on her phone. Cameron was upstairs somewhere, probably on a conference call. My father was reading the newspaper in his leather armchair, physically present but mentally somewhere else entirely. "I need to talk to all of you," I said from the doorway. My mother barely glanced up. "If this is about Mateo and Lucia's schedule, Isabel already sent you everything you need." "It's not about that." I steadied my voice, made it strong. "I'm not watching the kids. I won't be available." That got their attention fast. Isabel's head snapped up like I had announced I was joining the circus. My mother's hands froze over a pile of sundresses. "What do you mean, not available?" my mother asked slowly. "I have a professional opportunity in California. I'm leaving tomorrow." "California?" My father finally lowered his newspaper, actually looking at me for once. "What kind of professional opportunity?" "It's career-related, photography work I've been developing." I didn't owe them more details than that. I didn't owe them anything. Isabel's face twisted into this expression of complete disbelief. "Elena, you can't be serious right now. I'm counting on you. We planned this entire trip around you being here." "You planned around me without asking me," I said quietly. "You just assumed I didn't have a life worth considering." The silence was thick enough to choke on. Then my mother stood up, her voice going cold as December. "This is incredibly selfish, Elena. Isabel needs your help. Family comes first, always." "Family comes first," I repeated softly. except when it came to inviting me to the Bahamas, right? Her mouth opened, then closed. For once in her life, Linda Martinez had nothing to say. My father cleared his throat roughly. If you walk away from this family, don't expect us to welcome you back with open arms. I understand, I said simply, and I meant it. I turned to leave, but Isabel's voice stopped me. You're going to end up alone, you know, just like Aunt Rosa. Is that really what you want for yourself? I looked at my sister, at her designer dress and her perfect life built on everyone else's labor. Maybe ending up like Aunt Rosa isn't the threat you think it is. Then I walked out of that house for what I knew might be the last time. So they tried guilt, they tried threats, they tried every manipulation tactic they'd used on me for 32 years. But this time, something was different. This time, I didn't stay. Want to know what happened when I finally left? Keep watching because the real story is just beginning.
The next 24 hours were an absolute masterclass in emotional warfare. My mother called 7 times, each voicemail more dramatic than the one before. Elena, you're destroying this family. I hope you realize that. Your father didn't sleep at all last night. He's heartbroken over this. Isabel has been crying all day. The children keep asking where Aunt Elena is. How do we explain this to them? Isabel took a completely different approach. She went for weaponized vulnerability. Elena, I don't understand why you're hurting me like this. I'm your sister. Don't you care about us anymore? Then came the text that almost broke through my resolve. You're going to die alone, you know, just like Aunt Rosa, bitter and lonely with nothing but your hobbies to keep you company. Is that really the life you want? I stared at that message for a long, long time. Just like Aunt Rosa. They meant it as an insult, as a warning, as a threat about my terrible future. But Aunt Rosa owned her own gallery. She created beautiful art. She built a life entirely on her own terms. She had friends, community, purpose. Aunt Rosa was genuinely happy. Maybe ending up like Aunt Rosa wasn't something to fear. Maybe it was something to aspire to. I turned off my phone and finished packing. The last thing I did before leaving Philadelphia was walk through my empty apartment one final time. 3 suitcases by the door, everything else staying behind. The secondhand furniture, the beige carpet, the safe, small life I'd been living for everyone else's benefit. I taped my apartment key to an envelope and slid it under my landlord's door with a note. Month-to-month lease, paid through the end of the month, clean break. I loaded my car as the sun came up. My Toyota Camry, 10 years old but reliable as sunrise. The same car my mother had been embarrassed by for a decade. It was going to carry me to a completely new life. I didn't look back as I pulled away from the curb. Not once. The drive from Philadelphia to Santa Barbara takes roughly 43 hours if you push hard. I didn't push. I took 6 days, stopping at roadside motels, eating at diners where absolutely nobody knew who I was or what I was supposed to be. Somewhere in Kansas, I pulled over at a rest stop and just sat there, watching the sunset turn the wheat fields into an ocean of gold. I photographed it, my first image as a free woman. On the 4th day, my phone buzzed with a text from Isabel. I'd turned it back on to check GPS directions. Mom says if you're not home when we get back, you're dead to her. I read it once, then I deleted it without responding. She'd been treating me like I was dead for years anyway. At least now I'd be alive somewhere else. On the 5th day, I called Aunt Rosa from a gas station in Arizona, standing in the desert heat with wind whipping my hair. I'm about 10 hours away, I told her. Your room is ready, mija. Clean sheets, gorgeous view, and Marcus wants to meet you tomorrow if you're up for it. My stomach flipped. Tomorrow? That's so fast. Elena, her voice was warm and certain. You've been working toward this for 3 years. It's not fast, it's finally. When I crossed the California state line, something fundamental shifted inside my chest. The Pacific Ocean appeared on my left, massive and endless and impossibly blue. I rolled down all the windows and breathed in salt air for the first time in my life. I cried then,
Not from sadness, but from this overwhelming sense of relief, of possibility, of finally being able to breathe. At 7:30 in the evening on the 6th day, I pulled into the driveway of Canvas and Clay, Aunt Rosa's gallery and studio in Santa Barbara. She was waiting on the porch, arms already open. "Welcome home, sweetheart," she said. And for the first time in 32 years, somewhere actually felt like home. Have you ever had a moment where you knew, absolutely knew, you were exactly where you needed to be? Tell me about it. Santa Barbara felt like stepping into a dream I didn't know I was allowed to have. Colorful buildings with Spanish tile roofs, art galleries on seemingly every corner, ocean mist rolling through palm trees. The whole city felt like someone had painted it into existence. Aunt Rosa's gallery sat on a peaceful street 3 blocks from the beach. Canvas and Clay, hand-painted sign, terracotta shutters, window boxes overflowing with bright bougainvillea. The gallery occupied the main floor where she displayed and sold both paintings and pottery to tourists and locals. I took the morning shift, 6 to noon. After that, my time was completely mine. "Aunt Rosa, I don't know how I'll ever thank you for this." She waved her hand dismissively. "Don't thank me, mija. Just build something beautiful. That's all the payment I need." The next morning, I woke up before dawn, tied on a simple apron, not that awful world's best Tia one I'd left behind in Philadelphia, just Canvas and Clay stitched in simple letters, and learned how to make proper pour-over coffee. Customers drifted in and out, locals who knew Rosa by name and greeted her with genuine warmth, tourists charmed by the handmade pottery and original paintings. I took orders, wiped down tables, chatted with strangers who had absolutely no idea I'd run away from my entire previous life just days ago. By 2 o'clock, I'd made $42 in tips. I'd smiled more genuinely than I had in months. And at 2 o'clock, I had an appointment that could change everything. I showered, changed into the nicest dress I owned, and walked 4 blocks to meet the man who might give me an actual future. Marcus Rivera looked nothing like what I'd imagined. I'd pictured someone intimidating, slicked back hair, designer suit, the kind of gallery director that makes artists feel small and inadequate. Instead, the man who greeted me at Shoreline Arts Collective was tall and relaxed, silver hair, warm eyes, wearing a linen shirt with rolled-up sleeves. He smiled like we were already friends. "Elena Martinez," he said, shaking my hand firmly. "Rosa has told me wonderful things about you, but honestly, the work speaks for itself." He led me through the gallery space. Clean white walls, beautiful natural light, photographs and mixed media pieces displayed with such careful intention. This was a serious place, a place where art genuinely mattered. "I've looked through your Instagram extensively," Marcus continued as we walked. "The Unseen Voices series is remarkable, Elena. There's an authenticity in those images that most photographers spend their entire careers trying to capture." I didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever talked about my work like that. "This one," he stopped in front of a large display screen showing my portfolio. On the screen was a photograph I'd taken 18 months ago, an elderly man sitting alone on a park bench, his face weathered by time but his eyes still full of quiet dignity. "This is the image that made me reach out to you. There's something in his expression, patience maybe, or acceptance. It's absolutely heartbreaking in the most beautiful way." "He was waiting for his daughter," I said quietly. "She was an hour late picking him up. Nobody else even looked at him." Marcus nodded slowly, thoughtfully. "You see people, Elena. Really see them. That's an extraordinary gift." He turned to face me directly, and his next words felt like a door opening. "I'd like to offer you a solo exhibition, 20 pieces, opening in 8 weeks. We'll cover all production costs, printing, framing, marketing. You keep 65% of any sales." My hands started shaking. I signed the contract on a Tuesday afternoon, sitting at Marcus's desk with California sunlight streaming through the gallery windows. The document was straightforward: 20 photographs, opening night scheduled for early September. Shoreline Arts Collective would handle all production costs, printing, framing, installation, promotional materials. I would receive 65% of all sales revenue, with the gallery keeping 35% as their commission. Standard terms, Marcus assured me, very fair for an emerging artist. But as I read through those pages, my hands wouldn't stop trembling. Take your time, Marcus said gently. This is a significant step. It wasn't the business terms overwhelming me, it was seeing my name printed in official type. Artist Elena Martinez, a legal document recognizing that my work had real value, that I had value. I thought about all those years doing my family's taxes, organizing their parties, caring for children who would grow up never knowing how much I'd sacrificed. Not once had my name appeared on anything that celebrated my contribution. Until now. The exhibition title, Marcus said, pointing to a line near the bottom. I'd like your input. We're proposing Unseen Voices, portraits of those we overlook. It's perfect, I whispered. I signed my name on the line, my hand steady despite everything. Marcus countersigned as director. His assistant, a kind young woman named Sophia, notarized the pages with official stamps. When it was done, Marcus handed me my copy. Congratulations, Elena, you're officially a represented artist. I walked out of that gallery holding the contract against my chest like it might disappear if I let go. Physical proof that I wasn't nothing, that I'd never been nothing at all. While I was building this new life in California, my family was discovering what my absence actually cost them. And honestly, what happened to them in the Bahamas was almost poetry justice. Stay with me.
While I was building my new life in Santa Barbara, my family was learning exactly what my absence meant. I didn't see these events happen personally, but I heard about them later, pieced together from voicemail messages and texts, and one extremely uncomfortable phone call from my father. Apparently, the Bahamas trip was an absolute disaster. Without me there to handle childcare, Isabel and Cameron couldn't enjoy a single adults-only dinner at the resort. Mateo threw a massive tantrum on the beach because nobody had remembered to pack his favorite swim goggles, something I'd never forgotten. Lucia developed an ear infection on day 2, and nobody could find the pediatrician's number because I'd always been the one who kept track of medical information. My mother spent most of the trip complaining that the resort staff wasn't attentive enough. She called the front desk 4 times about towel service. She sent back her piña colada twice because it wasn't made right. "This isn't relaxing at all," she reportedly said. "Who even planned this vacation?" My father wisely didn't remind her that she'd planned it herself. The texts started arriving on day 3 of their trip. "Elena, where did you put the kids' medical records? Elena, what's Mateo's actual bedtime routine? He won't go to sleep. Elena, the restaurant doesn't have anything the kids will eat. What do we do?" I didn't respond to any of them. I was too busy selecting frames at a photography studio in Santa Barbara, reviewing print proofs, and meeting with a journalist from a local arts magazine who wanted to interview me about my upcoming exhibition. But here's the thing about absence. It teaches people what they've been taking completely for granted. On day 5 of their Bahamas vacation, Isabel did something she'd never done before. She Googled my name. And for the first time ever, she found something other than my LinkedIn profile with basic bookkeeping credentials. She found my Instagram, my 14,000 followers, my exhibition announcement at Shoreline Arts Collective. She found out I had an entire life she knew nothing about. 8 weeks later, I stood in the center of Shoreline Arts Collective and couldn't quite process that this was real. 20 of my photographs hung on pristine white walls, each one printed large and framed simply. The gallery glowed with carefully placed lighting. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Marcus's idea, definitely not mine.
a bartender in crisp white poured champagne for guests. 60 people moved through the space. Local artists I'd met through Aunt Rosa, collectors Marcus had personally invited, a journalist from Santa Barbara Arts Review already taking notes. People who had come specifically to see my work hanging on gallery walls with actual price tags that made me dizzy every time I glanced at them. I wore a deep blue dress, elegant but understated. My hair was down, flowing naturally. I'd even put on lipstick, something I almost never did. Aunt Rosa appeared beside me, pressing a glass of champagne into my hand. "How are you feeling, mija?" "Terrified," I admitted. "What if nobody connects with the work?" "Someone already has." She nodded toward a woman wearing expensive jewelry, studying the centerpiece of my exhibition, the park bench photograph that had first caught Marcus's attention. A small red dot sticker had appeared on the wall card beside it. "That's Mrs. Chen. She collects contemporary photography all over the West Coast. She just purchased that piece for $3,500. $3,500 for something I'd created, for seeing someone everyone else ignored. "Elena!" Marcus appeared, practically glowing with excitement. "I want you to meet someone from Arts Review. They're considering featuring you in next month's cover story." Cover story. Magazine cover. My face, my name, my journey, all in print for people to actually read. I was halfway through that introduction when the gallery door opened and my entire world tilted sideways. Isabel and Cameron walked in, still looking sun-touched from the Bahamas. They looked completely, utterly out of place. Isabel wore a bright floral sundress more appropriate for a beach barbecue. Cameron had his phone out, already frowning at work emails probably. They both scanned the room with expressions I recognized immediately, the look my family always wore when encountering something outside their narrow understanding. Then Isabel's eyes found me. "Elena!" She rushed forward with outstretched arms, like we were reuniting after some tragic separation. "Oh my God, we've been so worried about you." 60 guests turned to look. The string quartet faltered for just a moment before recovering. "Isabel," I kept my voice completely calm, "this is unexpected." "We had to come." Her eyes were wide, earnest, performing concern. "We flew in last night. Mom found your Instagram. She's been calling everyone trying to track you down." Cameron appeared behind her, nodding at me like we were colleagues at a networking event. "Elena, nice space you have here." "It's a gallery," I said evenly. "My gallery opening, actually." Isabel blinked, really taking in the photographs on the walls for the first time, taking in the crowd, the champagne, the red dots marking sales. "You did all of this?" Her voice carried genuine confusion. "Since when do you even do photography?" "Since 3 years ago," I said. "You never asked what I did with my free time." Aunt Rosa materialized by my side immediately, a quiet fortress of support. Across the room, Marcus was watching carefully, ready to step in if necessary. Isabel leaned closer, lowering her voice to something she probably thought was subtle. "Elena, I have news. I'm pregnant again, number 3. She put her hand on her stomach like I couldn't understand without the visual. "And I really, really need you to come home. Cameron's workload is absolutely insane right now. Mom isn't helpful at all with the kids, and I genuinely need you." There it was. Not an apology, not congratulations on my exhibition or acknowledgement of anything I'd accomplished. Just need. Always, always their need placed above everything else. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. Need you. How many times had I heard that exact phrase? How many times had I dropped everything, rearranged my entire existence, made myself small enough to fit into whatever space they'd decided I should occupy?
Tell me in the comments, and if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. Because what I'm about to tell you, this is for every person who's ever been taken for granted, every person who's been treated like they don't matter,
Every person who finally decided enough was enough. Isabel, I said quietly but clearly, I'm in the middle of my opening night. I know, and this is really nice, it is. She waved her hand dismissively at my life's work like it was a cute craft project. But we can talk about all of this later. Right now, I need to know when you're coming back to Philadelphia. She's not coming back. Aunt Rosa's voice cut through the space like a blade. She lives here now. This is her home. Derek stepped forward, irritation flickering across his lawyer face. With all due respect, Rosa, this is a family matter. Family matter? Aunt Rosa actually laughed, sharp and cutting. You mean the family that uninvited her from vacation and called her free childcare in emails she wasn't supposed to see? Isabel went pale, absolutely pale. Around us, guests had completely stopped pretending not to listen. The journalist from Arts Review, her pen was moving rapidly across her notepad. We didn't mean it that way, Isabel stammered. How exactly did you mean it? This came from Mrs. Chen, the collector who just purchased my photograph. She stood nearby, champagne glass in hand, watching this entire scene unfold. I'm sorry, Cameron said tightly, his lawyer voice activating. Who are you? Someone who just paid $3,500 for that young woman's art, Mrs. Chen replied calmly, nodding toward my park bench photograph, and someone who's extremely curious why her family seems to think she should abandon her career to be unpaid help. The temperature in that gallery dropped 10 degrees instantly. Isabel looked at me with something close to panic in her eyes. Elena, please, let's talk privately about this. Let me stop here for just a moment. If your family showed up at the most important night of your life, not to celebrate you, but to drag you back to a life where you were invisible, what would you say to them? Really think about it. Drop your answer in the comments because I genuinely want to know. And if this story is resonating with you, if you've ever felt unseen in your own family, make sure you're subscribed because stories like this, they need to be told. Now let me tell you exactly what I said. I didn't retreat to some quiet corner. For 32 years, I had made myself invisible, whispered when I should have spoken, accommodated when I should have refused, disappeared when I should have stood my ground. Not tonight. I stepped forward into the center of my own exhibition and spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. Isabel, I understand you're pregnant. Congratulations, I mean that genuinely. But I will not be coming back to Philadelphia to provide childcare. Elena, please, I'm not finished. My voice didn't shake at all. You can hire a nanny, Isabel. You can hire 2 if you need them. Cameron makes more than enough money, and you've never had trouble spending it before. What you cannot do is hire me, because I was never paid. I was just expected to show up and be grateful for the opportunity to serve. Isabel's mouth opened, then closed. Around us, I could feel the entire gallery leaning in, listening. This isn't a hobby, I continued, gesturing to the walls around us. This is my work. I've been building this for 3 years while everyone in our family assumed I had nothing important in my life. And just so we're absolutely clear, I pointed to the photograph Mrs. Chen had purchased. That piece sold for $3,500. Tonight, I've sold 6 pieces totaling over $11,000. My work has value. I have value, and I will not throw that away to go back to being free labor. Complete silence. Absolute, total silence. Marcus started to clap. Aunt Rosa joined immediately. Mrs. Chen raised her champagne glass in a silent, elegant toast. One by one, every guest in that gallery joined in. Applause rippled through the space, growing louder. Not for my photographs this time, for me, for finally standing up and saying enough. I didn't smile triumphantly. I didn't gloat or make a scene. I simply looked at my sister and said with complete honesty, I hope your pregnancy is healthy and your children are happy. I truly do. But I won't sacrifice my life for yours anymore. Then I turned and walked away to rejoin my opening, leaving them standing there with nothing left to say. The gallery door opened again maybe 20 minutes later. I was deep in conversation with the arts review journalist discussing my artistic process when I saw them appear in the entrance. My parents. My mother wore her expensive Burberry coat, the one she saved for occasions she deemed important. My father stood slightly behind her in a blazer, looking profoundly uncomfortable. They scanned the room until their eyes locked onto me. Linda Martinez walked through my gallery like she owned every square inch of it. Elena. Her voice carried that tone she'd perfected when I was young and had disappointed her somehow. You need to talk immediately. The journalist raised an eyebrow. I politely excused myself and walked toward them, intercepting before they could create an even bigger scene. You came all this way, I said neutrally. Of course we did, my mother said, her voice trembling with what she probably thought was justified anger. You disappeared completely, Elena. You abandoned your family when we needed you most. And now I find you here playing artist while your sister is pregnant and genuinely struggling. Isabel is pregnant and wealthy, I corrected calmly. She's not struggling, Mom. She's inconvenienced by having to actually parent her own children. Don't be cruel, Elena, my mother snapped. This isn't who you are. You're right, I took a steady breath. It isn't the me you wanted, the me you could count on to do whatever you asked without question. But that Elena was never actually seen as a person. She was just used as free labor. My father cleared his throat roughly. Elena, your mother is trying to say. I know exactly what she's trying to say, Dad. I met his eyes directly. I've heard it my entire life. Family comes first. Make sacrifices. Don't be selfish. I turned back to my mother. But I wasn't included in the family vacation to the Bahamas, remember? So which is it? Am I family or am I just the help? Neither of them had an answer ready. My mother recovered first, as she always did. The Bahamas was one trip, she said dismissively, like it meant nothing. You're completely blowing this out of proportion. Someone had to stay with the children. Someone, I repeated slowly. Why me? Why is it always me? Because you have the time, she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. You don't have a husband. You don't have children of your own. What else would you possibly be doing that's more important than family? I'd wondered if I would ever actually use those screenshots. Part of me had hoped I'd never need them. But standing there in my gallery, surrounded by my work and witnesses who could see me clearly, I realized some truths absolutely need to be spoken out loud. I pulled out my phone carefully. Let me read you something, I said, my voice perfectly steady. This is an email you sent to Isabel before your anniversary party. My mother's face went completely white.
Keep Elena home to watch the kids, I read aloud. She doesn't have anything important to do anyway. It's like having free childcare on demand. She should honestly be grateful we give her something to do. The gallery went silent again. And Isabel's reply, I continued, she'll probably feel useful for once, which is kind of sad. Isabel, standing a few feet away, looked like she wanted the earth to open and swallow her whole. Elena, my father started weakly, where did you even— It doesn't matter where I found it, I said, lowering my phone. What matters is that you wrote it, both of you. I'm not reading this to humiliate anyone or cause drama. I'm reading it so you finally understand why I left. You never saw me as family. You saw me as staff, and staff has every right to resign. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish. For the first time in her entire life, Linda Martinez was completely speechless. The journalist was still writing, capturing every word. Cameron was the one who broke first, stepping forward aggressively.
"This is absolutely ridiculous," he snapped, his courtroom persona fully activated. "Elena, you're making a scene over nothing. So your family asked you to babysit sometimes. Big deal. That's what families do for each other. Not everyone gets to run away and pretend to be an artist." "Pretend?" Mrs. Chen's voice sliced through the room like ice. "I just spent $3,500 on her work," she said coldly. "I don't invest that kind of money in pretend." Cameron turned, his corporate confidence cracking visibly. "With respect, ma'am, you don't understand this family dynamic. This is between us." "Actually," Mrs. Chen set down her champagne with deliberate precision, "I understand exactly what I need to know. I know that young woman spent years photographing people society overlooks completely, and I know her own family treated her exactly the same way." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Guests were openly staring now, no longer pretending to look at artwork. The kind of attention my mother had always desperately craved, but never, ever like this. My mother tried desperately to salvage something. "This is all a misunderstanding," she said to the room, forcing a smile. "Family jokes being taken completely out of context." "A joke?" Another voice, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes. I'd sold her a photograph earlier. "Telling your daughter she has nothing important to do? Calling her free childcare? What part of that is funny?" More murmurs, more judgment, more witnesses. The social credibility my mother had spent literal decades building was evaporating in real time. "I think," Aunt Rosa said gently but firmly, "it's time for all of you to leave." My mother's face flushed deep red. My father took her arm, trying to guide her toward the exit. "Elena," my mother said, her voice actually shaking now, "you're going to regret this deeply." "No," I said, quietly, with absolute certainty. "I really, really won't." They left. My mother first, turning sharply and pulling my father behind her. The door closed with a soft click that somehow echoed louder than any slam could have. Isabel lingered for just a moment, mascara smudged, arms wrapped around herself protectively. "Elena," her voice cracked, "I didn't know you felt this way about everything. I thought you genuinely liked helping us." "No, Isabel," I said, not unkindly but truthfully. "You didn't think about it at all. None of you ever did. I hope everything goes well with your pregnancy. I hope your children grow up happy and healthy. But I won't be the live-in aunt anymore. If you want any relationship with me going forward, it has to be completely different. It has to be equal." She nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. They left through the same door. The gallery collectively exhaled. Aunt Rosa wrapped her arm around my shoulders immediately. "You okay, mija?" "I think so." I let out this shaky laugh. "I just confronted my entire family publicly at my own art exhibition." "You did," she squeezed my shoulder, "and you were absolutely magnificent." Marcus approached with a fresh glass of champagne. "For what it's worth," he said warmly, "I've been running galleries for 25 years. Never, ever seen an opening night quite like this one." "Is that good or bad?" I asked. He smiled genuinely. "Let's just say everyone here will remember your name, Elena, and that's exactly what an artist needs." I looked around at my photographs, my gallery space, my new life spread out before me. For once, I didn't feel invisible at all. By the time the gallery closed that night, I'd sold 11 of my 20 photographs. 11 pieces, $18,000 in total sales. After the gallery's commission, $11,700 would come directly to me. Marcus handed me the printed sales report as the last guest filtered out into the warm California night. "Not bad for a debut," he said with understated pride, "especially considering the unexpected family drama." I stared at those numbers. $11,700, more than I used to make in half a year of bookkeeping work. "Mrs. Chen wants to commission custom work," Marcus continued. "She has a vacation property in Carmel, wants you to photograph the coastline with your particular perspective." a private commission from an actual collector. He handed me an elegant business card, her assistant's information, call them next week. I tucked it carefully into my bag, next to my gallery contract and the journalist's card promising a feature article. The magazine piece, Marcus added almost casually. Susan said she has more than enough material. They're strongly considering you for next month's cover. Cover of an actual published magazine with my face, my name, my story. Aunt Rosa helped me carefully pack the unsold photographs that night, carrying them back to my room above the gallery. 9 pieces, still waiting for the right person to see them, but 9 felt like victory, not failure. I set that first check on my desk, payable to Elena Martinez, $11,700. I photographed it, not to post anywhere, just to remember this moment forever. Physical proof that I wasn't nothing, that I had never been nothing at all. 2 months later, my life had found its rhythm.
I woke at 5:30 each morning, watched the sunrise over the Pacific from my window, opened Canvas and Clay by 6. Morning shift until noon, making coffee, chatting with regulars, learning the names of locals who now knew me as Rosa's niece, the photographer. Afternoons belonged entirely to my work. I'd rented a tiny studio space 4 blocks from the gallery, just enough room for my editing equipment and a small printing setup. The first exhibition had closed, but Marcus had already scheduled another for spring, a new series I was calling Thresholds. Photographs of doorways, borders, edges, the spaces between belonging and solitude. It felt right, capturing transitions. The magazine article published in November, my photograph on the cover of Santa Barbara Arts Review with the headline, "The Artist Who Finally Saw Herself." The article told my story, edited naturally, with names changed to protect both innocent and guilty, but the essential truth was there, the invisibility, the breaking point, the choice to leave. People reached out, so many people. Women who'd been the family helper, the reliable one, the one everyone simply forgot to thank or acknowledge. Their messages filled my inbox like a chorus of recognition. I thought I was the only one experiencing this. You gave me permission to leave my situation. Thank you for showing it's actually possible to choose yourself. My family reached out too, eventually. Isabel texted after baby Charlotte was born. She sent a photo, tiny and pink and perfect. I sent congratulations and a generous gift card. Nothing more than that. My mother called once. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail asking if I'd gotten this whole thing out of my system yet, if I was ready to come home and be reasonable. I deleted it without a second thought. But my father surprised me completely. His email arrived on a quiet Tuesday evening. 3 simple sentences. Elena, I saw the magazine article about your work. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. That one I kept. Today I'm sitting in my studio space looking out at the Pacific Ocean. The Canon camera I bought from that Philadelphia pawn shop 3 years ago still sits on my shelf, older now, more worn, but still working perfectly. Next to it sits a newer professional model I purchased with money I earned from my actual art. Both cameras matter equally. One taught me to see, the other proved that people could see me back. My second exhibition opens next month, Thresholds. 20 new photographs exploring the edges of connection, the places where family ends and self begins, where obligation becomes exploitation, where love transforms into something else entirely. I think it might be my strongest work yet. Aunt Rosa stops by every single morning with coffee and commentary. Marcus checks in weekly with updates about collectors and new opportunities. The Canvas and Clay regulars have started requesting the photographer's corner table by the window where I sometimes edit between customers. I'm not wealthy, I'm not famous, but I'm seen, I'm valued, I'm respected, and that's more than enough. As for my family, we exist in a new configuration now. Polite Christmas cards, occasional birthday texts, updates about the children, civil, distant, infinitely healthier than before. I haven't been back to Philadelphia. Maybe someday I will, but only as a visitor, never as the help.
The other day, I found an old photograph on my phone, a self-portrait I'd taken years ago in my Boston apartment mirror, back when I was still invisible. The woman in that image looked exhausted, defeated, like she was waiting for permission just to exist. I deleted it immediately. That woman doesn't exist anymore. In her place is someone who takes up space unapologetically, who creates meaningful work, who says no when she means no, and yes only when she genuinely chooses to. Someone who finally allowed herself to be seen. That's the real story here. Not revenge, not dramatic triumphs, just freedom. From a human perspective, my story illustrates something psychologists call parentification, when a family member, often the eldest, takes on excessive responsibilities without recognition or reciprocity. I also occupied what's known as the scapegoat role, the person whose needs are consistently deprioritized, while a golden child receives endless attention and resources. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal. It's not abandonment or selfishness. It's recognizing that you cannot pour endlessly from an empty cup, and that people who truly love you won't demand that you try. If you're in a situation anything like mine was, please remember this. Your worth isn't measured by how useful you are to others. It's inherent. It was always there, even when nobody bothered to acknowledge it. And sometimes the bravest thing you can possibly do isn't fighting back or proving yourself. It's simply walking away, building something entirely your own, letting your life speak louder than any argument ever could. You deserve that. We all do. If this story touched you, if you recognized yourself anywhere in my journey, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment, share your city, tell me your story. And subscribe if you want more stories about finding your voice, setting boundaries, and reclaiming the life you deserve. Thank you for listening to my story.